So brothers and sisters, this gospel of today is very important because it shows us this very meeting of Christ with Peter, which is very essential for the mission that Christ has and wants to entrust to Peter, not only as a pope, but also a disciple. As a disciple, because today Peter actually becomes the pope. No, it is now that Christ says, feed my sheep. Before you used to do whatever you want, you used to go wherever you want, but now you go and you feed the sheep. In other words, you go now and you do the will of the Father. But before that, Peter has to experience one thing. Peter has to know himself. Because Peter, he didn't know himself. That's why the first step towards holiness, if you want, is to know oneself. And mainly to know that we are weak people. And that was the problem with Peter, because Peter, in my opinion, he was the worst of all the disciples. He was the one that he was full of himself, he was the first one to jump on the water. He was the first one to ask questions, the first one to answer questions, right? Lord, I will never betray you. No, I'm not like these guys. Like these guys, the other guys, these ones, yeah, they will betray you. Me, I will never betray you. No, Peter, you do not know yourself. In truth, I tell you, before the cock crows, you're gonna deny me 3 times. So Peter, he didn't know himself. He thought he was better than the others, let's say, right? That's why the betrayal that Peter had, it was very important for him, because he has to discover that he's not better than anybody else, that he's also a betrayer, that he's also a liar. That's why Peter, he has to fall. After Peter betrays Jesus, that's when this episode happens, and Christ comes and he shows himself to Peter and asks, Peter, do you love me? And he asked 3 times, which is to remind Peter of the 3 times, the very 3 times that Peter denied him. And for those who know a little bit of scriptures, you know that Christ, he kind of plays with the word love here. It's almost as if he started with the highest love to the human love, right? It's almost as if he says, okay, Peter, are you going to give your life for me? And then the third love is almost like, okay, Peter, are you at least my friend? And Peter says, Lord, you know everything. It's almost as if you could say, Lord, you know that I'm not better than anybody else. You know, Lord, that I lie. You know that I betrayed you. You know that you cannot trust in me, Lord. You know that, right? So Peter, at this point, he knows himself. And that's very important for the mission, because now he can be a disciple and he can also be the Pope. Then now Christ, he can send Peter, go and feed my sheep. And this was important. That's why Peter's betrayal, Peter's fall, if you want, was very important, because Peter, he believed that he was better than everybody else. And God had to show him that no, he was not. He was not. That's why the first step towards holiness is to know oneself, right? Unlike Judas, because Judas also, he betrayed Jesus. But the difference between Judas and Peter is that Peter, he accepted this love. He accepted this forgiveness. That's why I usually say that to be forgiven by God is not that easy, huh? Or let me rephrase that. To accept God's forgiveness is not that easy, huh? It's like people that, I don't know, they committed certain kind of sins in the past, and they do not believe, they cannot forgive themselves. Even though you can tell them many times that God has forgiven you, they do not accept that. Many of us, we can be like that. That's the image of Judas, because Judas, he also lied. Judas also, he betrayed. But unlike Peter, Judas, he does not believe that God can forgive him, that God can love him like that. So what does he do? He hangs himself, right? That's why Peter, it's a very important figure for us, because Peter shows to us, especially today, that it's okay to be who you are. That deep inside, we do betray the Lord every single day, with my words, with my actions, with my thoughts. We do betray him. And that's okay. I mean, it's okay in the sense of that he knows that. That's why I usually tell people, the problem is not to sin, because to sin, we're going to sin. Many times we think that to be holy is to be sinless, is to be flawless, is to be all the time, 24 hours in state of grace. That's not what holiness is. Holiness is all about you loving God, you loving Christ. And this relationship, yes, you're going to fall once in a while, but the problem is not to fall. The problem is when someone doesn't want to stand up anymore. That's why Christ left for us the sacrament of reconciliation. Why would he give us that if he wanted us to be sinless, let's say? Because he knew that we'll be flawed for sure. We would sin. So today Peter, he shows us this. Now, before you used to do whatever you want, you used to go wherever you want, but now you're going to go and you're going to do the will of the Father. So it's an invitation for us today as well to enter into this mission that God has entrusted to us, which is not only for priests, because even me as a priest, before being a priest, I'm called to be a Christian. That's our common vocation, let's say, which is first to be a Christian. That's why I can be a priest without being a Christian. Yeah. So first of all, Peter, he has to encounter with this love. Once he encounters this love, that is forgiveness, that is total forgiveness, then he can become a disciple, he can become the Pope. Now he can go out and he can share this good news to the whole world. So I think that this is a good news for us as well. So don't be afraid of your faults, don't be afraid of your sins, don't be scared. So go towards the Lord and accept this forgiveness that he has for you. God bless you.